Hello and welcome to episode number 60 something of the Knitting Teaspoon podcast. I'm Liesbeth, your host, and this is a podcast which is all about knitting, spinning, sewing, crochet, basically all of the fiber crafts that I feel like. And this week there have only been two crafts, or actually the past 2 weeks. Last week I fully intended to put out a podcast episode, but we got caught up a little bit in the rest of our program for the Saturday. We were heading out for IKEA to get ourselves some storage boxes for moving a lot of our stuff to our storage unit. Storage units for in a storage unit. Wow, good story. Anyway, we needed some plastic containers to put in a lot of our stuff that we want to move to our, I don't know how you call this, something like a garage, but you can't put a car in it. Well, you probably know what I mean. Anyway, it's downstairs, and we need some proper plastic containers to be able to move some of our stuff that is slightly too precious to just be put out in the open there. So we just wanted to have a quick visit to IKEA and then come back and have a podcast episode. But we didn't check the route before we went. So we had to travel north in Eindhoven, which is where I live in the Netherlands, and we got caught up with the military parade. So usually it takes about 10 minutes to get there. Well, after about an hour I was halfway in the car, so that took a lot more time than we expected. It was very awesome though. Something that you probably aren't aware of if you're not from this area is that Eindhoven was liberated from the Germans in 1944, September 18. So that has been 75 years ago this week. And that was part of Operation Market Garden. I believe that it was mostly British people, but all of the Allied forces obviously had to work together to be able to make the liberation of the Netherlands happen. And unfortunately, Market Garden stranded 75 years ago at Arnhem, which is somewhat further to the north. So the northern parts of the Netherlands were not liberated for the severe winter that was there from 44 to 45, but Eindhoven, which is the city where I live, was liberated. None of my grandparents were liberated by this operation. That is my dad's parents. They lived in the north of the Netherlands, so that entire area wasn't freed yet. And my grandparents on my mother's side, they lived to the south far enough to have their territory actually freed by the Allied forces, but they lived on the border between the part that was still occupied and the part that was liberated. So it was a very dangerous area that still contained a lot of bombing. So my grandma on mother's side has been evacuated to live in a chicken coop for most of that winter. Well, there you have war stories, exactly why you came here, right? Anyway, no matter whether or not this freed my grandparents, of course it's of major importance to everyone in the Netherlands that the Netherlands have been liberated, and therefore we are very thankful to all of the Allied forces and everyone who has helped in that operation to, give us our freedom, because we have been free and I believe war-free ever since. We've only been involved in peace missions elsewhere. I have lived all my life in peace. My parents have lived all their life in peace. It's just a wonderful thing to have. So, So, yay for freedom. Anyway, let's get into what I've been doing, because I think you're probably here for the knitting content. And I believe that you've had enough chance by now to to check out episode, I believe it was 66 or maybe 65. So I can't remember the numbers anymore. Anyway, the number of this episode will be on the name of the podcast, in the description and everywhere. But 2 podcast episodes ago I announced that I am pregnant, and I feel like you have had all the chance to find out through the announcement video. So let's get into what I've been working on, because all of my projects this week or the past 2 weeks have been pregnancy related. So first of all, there is the baby blanket that I am still knitting from, I completely forgot what yarn is this. This is Annell Cotton 8, I believe. So I was at the teapot last week. Beautiful stitch marker that I got from, and marked that stitch. I believe it's been in my possession for about 1.5 years, and I love it to bits. It's discolored a little over time, but it's so me. I love it. And the blanket is slowly growing, but I had a little bit enough of all the cabling, so I also started another project, which is why I have not made that much progress. And the first project that I've cast on and also finished is the newborn Vertebrae, and I'm pretty sure this is made by some designer, but I really can't remember what the name of the designer is. I believe it's Kelly van Neigaard. I'm not 100% sure, something like that. Anyway, so this should be a cardigan that fits our baby right after birth. That is, depends a little bit on its birth weight, but if it's between 3.5 and 4.5 kilos, it should fit. And I believe that's a baby weight that will be obtained definitely within the first month. And I hope that it won't be that heavy when it gets born. So in the Netherlands, they say that a baby is underweight when it's born, when it's under 3 kilos. And obviously I hope that my baby will weigh at least 3 kilos for that reason, but also I'm hoping it will stay under 4, because that's, well, I don't want to think about having to give birth to a heavy baby that much yet. Who knows? We will see. Anyway, so this is the newborn Vertebrae, and it has been a very quick and very enjoyable knit as well. So tiny raglan type cardigan without a front, and this is intentional that it hardly has a front. This is supposed to have 2 benefits. Like, first of all, you can kind of cuddle with your baby and then have its back kept warm, and then have skin on skin contact, which is supposed to be very good for bonding, so I definitely want to try that. Which should still be possible if it's wearing this type of cardigan, and otherwise, if, well, babies tend to be very good at getting themselves and their clothes very dirty very fast, so an open front cardigan is at least somewhat less likely to get puked upon. Yay. Sometimes I wonder why I want children. If you hear all the stories about them making a mess of everything. Anyway, it's a very adorable little cardigan, I feel like. And I knit this out of some yarn that I know that I picked up at Knit and Knots last year, I believe in September or October. I'm not really sure when the festival was last year. It's a biannual thing, like it happens twice a year. I'm pretty sure that I picked it up at that festival, but I don't know if I ever had a tag of this or that I lost it right away or something, but for some reason this skein lived without a tag. So I'm not sure who the designer is. I believe it must be something like a beach colorway, because it has the sand colors and the sea colors. So something like seashells or beach or whatever could be the name of this yarn. I may be able to trace it back, especially because I may have talked about this in the podcast back then, but I haven't gotten around to do it. So anyway, it's a sock weight yarn, so fingering weight, and it has probably merino nylon. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it definitely feels like a merino nylon. And if not, then it's probably some kind of wool nylon blend. So I was originally planning to make socks out of this for myself, but I feel like it works quite well as a cardigan. It did pull a little on the back side, which you will be able to see from the front side as well, because it's not it has no front. But I feel like that's okay. Although I must say that I do prefer the look of the sleeves, where it's just striped with both colors. Anyway, that's one project. This is one of the projects that was suggested to me as a good baby knit, and I will get you a few more of the recommended patterns that I've had suggestions for by people who've been watching this podcast, but also from some friends in real life. If after this podcast you feel like there's more baby patterns that are really good patterns to knit for a baby, then please feel free to come up with more suggestions, because I feel like if you have good experience with such a pattern, then it's probably worth diving into it. And there's a lot of baby patterns, so it's not like I won't have anything else to knit if there's no more suggestions, but it's just nice to work with patterns that you know are nice to work with. So the next project that I've been working on is the Honeybug Romper, and this is a pattern by Ingerberg something that I probably wouldn't be able to pronounce if I knew what the name was exactly, but I believe that she works as Mama's teddy bear, which I feel like for most English speakers would be easier to remember than her actual name. But yeah, she does have a real name that's not teddy bear. Anyway, it's a very cute romper, and I knit this in the size 6 to 12 months because I thought Junior is due to be born by the end of February, and this pattern, it felt like something that the new or the smallest size might be too big until it gets summer, and this is pretty heavy yarn, so I believe this worsted weight is actually written for a DK weight, but I didn't have any DK weight, so I knit it out of a worsted weight, and I still got gauge, so I feel like that's fine. And I feel like in the winter time this will be something that our baby will be able to wear, and 6 to 12 month size means something like August to February, and most of those months will be cold. I must say it's been so lovely, the weather lately. It's been autumn, but warm enough in the afternoon to feel comfortable and nice and warm and enjoy a bit of sun, but at night it's even been freezing, so that's amazing. I love that. Don't really like that we will soon have to use our heating system again in our house, but for now we've been fine without it, so probably from next year, September-ish, it will be cold enough, at least some days, that our baby will be able to wear this, and it looks freaking adorable. Now I must say, until I was about here, because you knit the bottom part first, it felt like I was knitting a diaper. But yeah, it is so adorable. And I'm not sure if I will ever were to knit this again, then I think I may try and knit this bottom part in a round, because now you knit the front back and forth and then go through the crotch and then knit the back and forth, and then you have to sew it together at the sides, and you can kind of see the seams. And that may be because I'm not that good of a sewist, or at least not by hand in knitted fabrics. And I mean, I don't think it looks ugly, but I feel like it could look a lot neater if it weren't sewn together but knit in a round. So maybe if I were to knit this again, I might I might just knit it in the round. I feel like that's very possible. Of course you wouldn't have to knit the crotch back and forth, but it's garter, so that would be fine. Anyway, the yarn that I've used for this pattern may be familiar because I've shown it on a podcast before, because last year I knit a blanket out of it for my cousin who was getting married at the time. And it's Annell Malmedy, which is a worsted weight yarn, and the color has a number, I believe it's 2540, but that's just out of my head, so I may be completely off. I looked at it in my stash and I found that according to Ravelry I had minus 80 meters of this before I started knitting with it, so I'm not sure how I managed to get this one out. I'm pretty sure that I bought something like 14 skeins in the beginning, and then bought some more skeins later on when I was knitting the blanket, and didn't end up using all of the skeins. I feel like I had 3.5 skeins left from last year's project. And I may also have knit a pair of baby socks out of it since, because our hairdresser was becoming a grandma for the first time. Anyway, so yeah, there is a very cute, something that's called a romper. Well, I'm not sure how you would call this. I would rather call this something like, would this be called something like dungarees? I'm not sure, but a romper in Dutch is something that you would probably close here and maybe also along the sides, and it's like the underwear for babies. So it's like underpants and a shirt in one. I don't know. So if I've been calling this a romper to my Dutch friends, they have all been confused. That's not a romper. Yeah, I know, but in English apparently this is also called a romper, so I can't help it. Anyway, I really enjoyed knitting on it, although I must say this bit obviously is also a bit cabled, so it wasn't that good of a alternative project to the blanket that I was knitting, but it's just a tiny piece, so it was over before I knew I had started it. Anyway, I'm quite happy with how this turned out. And then there is another project that I've cast on for our baby, and that is the Flax Light sweater, and our baby is going to be very funky, I believe. So I had my boyfriend pick from a lot of the single skeins of sock yarn that I had, and he picked this color, so yeah. It's an interesting color for a baby, I'd say. Anyway, it's quite enjoyable to knit, and it's interesting to see how the pooling works with the raglan increases. And I'm actually at the point where I can separate for the sleeves, I believe, already. So it's incredible how fast that goes for babies. I'm not sure. If I look at this, it seems like I may have to pick up some stitches under the yarn in order to be able to do that, or maybe I will just have to look at the pattern and see if there's some other instructions. I feel like I've knit to a certain point in the instructions, and I thought that was going to be the sleeve separation, but now that I look at it, it seems like it may be a little early to do so. Anyway, so yeah, it's growing and I like it. So there you go. Flax Light cardigan by Tim Can Knits. Tim Can Knits. It's quite enjoyable and easy pattern to work on. So that's been good to have an easy project, because I've been breaking my brain on another project that I am working on, and this one is a sewing project. So this is my first attempt at making a maternity skirt, and it's obviously for myself, and I feel like this looks huge. Absolutely huge. My belly is not that big yet. I must say it probably looks bigger because the zipper in the back side is open now, so I will close that. And it may look a little less huge. Anyway, I have been hacking a pattern because I have received from some friends of mine from my knitting group, most of them are a lot older than I am, a lot of patterns for baby knits and sews. So I want to work on making some baby garments by sewing as well, especially because I feel like sewing and knitting can live just perfectly fine alongside each other. They just fulfill a different need, I feel like. But most of the patterns that I received were from the 1990s. So some of the skirts I don't really see myself walking around in. Now, I'm not saying that the patterns are useless, but I have been trying to use like the belly bit from a jersey fabric and hack it onto the Delphine Skirt by Tilly and the Buttons. Yeah, so far it's been a bit tricky because first of all you need obviously to modify the patterns, because the Delphine Skirt gets up quite high on your waist, and currently I have quite the baby bump. So my regular skirts don't fit anymore, which is exactly why I want to make maternity skirts. So I've been trying to modify it so that you have this line of, you know, basically where you see the line between the jersey and the jeans fabric. That's supposed to be like the underline of my belly, and then this flap is supposed to cover most of my belly. But then there's something with an elastic that is supposed to go in there and keep everything in place. But obviously the back side of this pattern, which I have left just as the regular Delphine pattern, does not have a proper guide for elastics. So I'm not sure how I am going to hack this into a pattern. I believe that if I am going to knit this again, and sew this again, and I'm definitely planning on doing so, because I have some more jeans fabric, which is dark blue instead of almost black jeans. Then I will make an additional tube on top of this that would also fit a little nicer with the fabric that I have here, because I now had to gather it a little bit to make the top edges get aligned. But basically none of the pattern instructions make sense anymore if you're trying to combine two pattern pieces, because the one pattern, like the Delphine pattern, actually wants you to sew this and the front, like the front waistband and the front skirt in one go, which obviously doesn't work if you have put the waist line for the front a lot lower than for the back side, which makes sense in a maternity pattern, but it all just doesn't work together, so I need to figure out how to hack it. So I am planning on opening the tube, because I have a little bit of a tube on the back side. You'll maybe be able to see it a little bit better, that I've well, it's black, so it's going to be difficult to show anyway, but there's this kind of tube along the top side of the jersey that I am intending to put some elastic through, but you have these elastics, and in Dutch it's called knoopsgat elastic, which means that it has buttonholes in there. So maybe it's just buttonhole elastic. I'm not sure if that's the proper English word, but there are buttonholes in the elastic, so that allows you to adjust the size of the elastic. And I am planning to make an opening so that I can still reach the elastic to be able to adjust it. And then, but as I was initially planning to sew it together, there would be no opening, so I need to make some kind of hole here, or maybe further along in here to just be able to do something with the elastic. And I just need to wrap my brain around how I am going to do that. So I'm probably going to sew some kind of buttonhole somewhere here to be able to reach the elastic. So it's not a buttonhole that is actually going to have a button through it, but it's going to have a buttonhole elastic coming out so that I can reach it. You don't understand what I'm talking about? Well, I hardly have a grasp of what I'm planning to do here either, but it's just, I don't know how I got to this idea that I could just hack two patterns together and hope that it was going to work. I'm kind of wondering why I didn't just stick to the entire 90s pattern and just adjust the shape of the skirt slightly. Might have been the better way of going around this. But then again, yeah, the pattern was, well, really not my thing. I was also not made for jeans, and I don't know. It's difficult. This is definitely also something that I could use some pattern recommendations for, and that's maternity patterns, and then mostly sewing patterns, because I feel like if I had to knit or hack a knitting pattern to accommodate for a bigger belly, then I would pretty much know how to work around with that. But apart from the fact that knitting in itself stretches, so you may not need as many hacks. Anyway, I feel like the number of knitting or sewing patterns that are available for pregnant women is severely lacking, and I know there are a few patterns out there, and this maternity Agnes that I'm currently wearing, that I've made myself from Tilly and the Buttons pattern, it's one of the few out there, and it's an amazing pattern, but I may want to wear more than just two dresses, because it's great that she has two dresses, but still it's only two dresses. And I usually live in a skirt and a shirt or a skirt and a sweater, so I kind of want to have at least a few maternity skirts. Anyway, I was already kind of sad that I didn't hack pockets into this skirt, because you guys, it's so amazing to have pockets, just to be able to get your keys in or something. There's always something that you want to have in your pockets. I feel like gives you the liberty to go out without an entire purse. Anyway, so who knows, maybe by next week this will be a wearable skirt, and maybe it will be a hopeless failure. It could go either way at this point, but yeah, I feel like it's time to start working on maternity skirts for myself, because my belly is growing fast at the moment, and it won't be much longer until I can't fit any of my skirts anymore. So I have made some Delphine skirts in the past, and they are my favorite skirts, and my favorite my favorite two I already can't wear anymore. They are made out of non-stretchy jeans fabric. They have the pockets hacked into them, and I love them. I wear them almost every single day. And then I have 3 more that, one of them is also non-stretchy, but I can't wear it anymore. And one more that is stretchy and has pockets inside, and I don't really like the look of the side pockets in the skirt that much, but at least I can still wear it. And then there's one that's also stretchy but also without pockets, and I can still wear it, so I do, because it's basically one of the 2 skirts that I can still wear at a time. I also tend to wear a lot of, like, how do you call that, sweatpants. So yeah, not as stylish as I used to be, but you know, it's for a greater cause, to put it that way. But I definitely need to upgrade my wardrobe a bit, because the coming few months I will want to wear clothes. Anyway, so if you can hear this, I gave my pets a treat yesterday, and it involves some like grains that I've put through the top of their cage, and one of them is now trying to get it down, but it makes a little bit of noise and it looks very funny. Anyway, I think that I've shared everything that I've had to share with you this week. So I hope to see you again next week, although I'm already pretty sure that I have some plans for next week, and these days it's kind of hard to work around or move around in things in my schedule, partially because I feel very tired very quickly, and if I don't podcast in the mornings, then I simply can't do it too late in the afternoon, because I have no energy. I will be asleep. And yeah, there's just a limited time frame that I can podcast in, and if I miss that time frame, then it's just gone. And I kind of have to wait another week, because during the weekdays I am occupied with my studies that are not going as fast as I'd hoped, but I'm making good progress. So anyway, I hope to see you again very soon, and we will see when exactly that will be. So have a lovely week or a few weeks. Bye!